Welcome to another edition of Badger Beat. We're going to talk a little bit of Badger basketball here with Tom Oates and Jim Polzin of the Wisconsin State Journal. I'm Adam Mertz. First topic for you guys, heading into the Big Ten tournament. Rob Wilson has really come on this year. Halfway through the year, you're wondering, how's this team going to evolve? Oates, he seems to be the X factor that maybe they're looking for.
He's been a big factor the last 4 games. Scored 32 points in those 4 games. We're not talking about a guy that's coming in to score 20 points here. We're talking about an addition to the offense, and a much-needed addition. I put him in the category along with maybe a Josh Gosser, who's also stepped up his production. And we saw with the offensive struggles of this team for much of this year, now you have 2 or 3 other guys who are contributing on a fairly regular basis. It's maybe taking this offense to another level. It's not they're not going to run up and down and score 80 points. I'm not saying that, but it's the offense is functioning better and more efficiently, I think.
Jim, is there anything that you've seen, that Wilson brings specifically into that, but also in terms of the offense and more fluidity on offense?
Well, let's face it, Jordan Taylor is really the only guy that can get to the basket consistently. But Rob Wilson has shown that he can do that. I mean, at Iowa, he was, he got the ball and he was real aggressive in getting to the basket, and they need that. I mean, when this offense is at its worst, it's because there's a lot of standing around, passing the ball around the perimeter, and they need at times someone to kind of take charge and get to the basket, and Wilson's shown he's capable of doing that. Big
Ten tournament, the Badgers have lost 3 straight there. This is a tournament that traditionally, the title in terms of the NCAA seeding committee, that's held as much significance as who wins the Pro Bowl. I mean, what's at stake for the Badgers this weekend?
I'm not sure there is a whole lot. I'm not sure that they can go, I think most people have them locked in as a 4 right now. I'm not sure they can go much higher, maybe a 3. And I'm not even sure that's possible. If they lose, their first game down there Friday, maybe they slip to a 5. I don't think there's a whole lot of difference between a 4 and a 5. So I wouldn't say there's a lot at stake for the Badgers. I'm sure they'd like to go down there and win the thing, though, because you always want a championship, on your resume. So I think that's what they're shooting for. But as far as NCAA tournament, I'm not sure there's a lot they can do down there to improve or not improve their seed.
Does this team need to prove anything to itself in that kind of environment?
I'm not sure. I think this team pretty much is what it is, and it's improved lately. I think it goes in with a fair degree of confidence, and it's probably deserved. I think they've played pretty well down the stretch. The Ohio State win was certainly a signature win. You just don't want to go down there and go 1 and out. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It leaves a bad taste in the selection committee's mouth. You want to be seeded in the NCAA tournament as high as you can. I think a lot of people have them on the 4-5 line, somewhere on either side of that line. And it'd be nice. You might get a little preferential treatment as far as where you play, things like that. Mm-hmm. The higher the seed you are. So I don't know that they're playing for a lot NCAA-wise, but they're maybe playing not to lose as opposed to how much they can gain.
The potential matchup this weekend on Friday at 1:30 is Indiana or Penn State. Indiana, the 5th seed, Penn State, the 12th seed. We'll talk more about the Hoosiers because that's the likely opposition for them. Did the history there, OT, 9 straight wins for the Badgers against the Hoosiers. No one's done that since they signed the Treaty of Versailles. That's how far back that goes.
Does Bob Knight know about that?
We'll have to talk to him about that. He's probably not too happy. But, I mean, the Badgers did not play at Indiana this year. This is not an Indiana home game, but Indiana's a team that knocked off 3 top 5 teams in their state. It's going to feel like a Hoosiers home game if these 2 teams match up, will it not?
Trust me, this will be an Indiana home game. If Wisconsin plays the Hoosiers, it will be an Indiana home game. I think the season the Hoosiers have had, 20-plus wins after 4 or 5 down seasons. Tom Crean has brought them back. There's Cody Zeller, the big freshman, is an Indianapolis product. A lot of hype surrounding him. I think the Indiana basketball fandom has been re-engaged with that program. So this is going to be a tough – if Wisconsin plays Indiana, it'll be very tough because I do foresee it as an Indiana home game.
Tom Crean took that loss kind of hard here, I think, and it was at a time when the Hoosiers are reeling a little bit. What did you see out of that matchup and how things pretend for the Badgers?
Well, the one thing, Indiana still is a great three-point shooting team, and Wisconsin really limited their looks from three-point range and, limited the number of makes. I mean, Indiana, Indiana can shoot as well as any team in the country, and a lot of that has to do with Zeller. I mean, teams have to respect Zeller on the inside, so that frees things up for their shooters. And at any time, they're going to have 4 guys that can make three-point shots. So if Wisconsin can limit that, I like their chances. But, like Otzi said, that's a home game for them. Indiana goes in with something to prove. They've never won that thing. They've never won the Big Ten tournament. And, this would prove, that they're legit, that they are back for sure. And so I think they're going in with a lot of momentum, and they might have as good a chance as anybody of winning that thing.
Thanks.
Let's say this. Should it be Penn State?
Yes.
Penn State is not a particularly good team, and their Big Ten finish showed that, tied for last place. Mm-hmm. But they play hard, and they play defense, and they're the kind of team that can make you look bad. And we all know what happened in Wisconsin last year in that tournament, okay? So no matter who it is, I don't think there's an easy game in the Big Ten this year. I really don't, because the 2 bottom teams, Nebraska and Penn State, make you play to beat them. I mean, you have to play hard and play smart to beat them. So there's really no easy games in the Big Ten this year.
Sticking with that, one more for you guys here in terms of the NCAA tournament and where you think the Big Ten is perceived and what you see of the number of teams making it in. What's your forecast for the Big Ten, how that shakes out?
Well, I think 6 teams are a lock. The 3 champions, Wisconsin, Purdue, and Indiana. I believe there's opportunity for a Northwestern or an Iowa or someone like that with a really good long run in the Big Ten tournament to maybe sneak through and jump up, because the Big Ten's rated very high as a league. It's the number 1 rated league in the RPIs, so those teams will certainly be in play. I think Northwestern is probably a bubble team right now and could maybe play their way into the tournament.
Jim, anything you're looking for?
Well, a lot will depend on what happens outside the Big Ten, too. I mean, Northwestern's got to hope that no more of these mid-major teams that can get in without winning their conference tournament do that, because Northwestern needs – I think Northwestern's got a pretty good resume, but, they are one of the bubble teams. And, if they beat Minnesota on Thursday, maybe win another game, I think they're in. But, it's hard. It's going to be hard to predict this thing.
Be a fun week to watch. We'll have coverage all week on madison.com. Thanks for joining us.